Round 6 of the 1991 World Motorcycle Enduro Championship comes to you from the tiny independent state of San Marino, Italy, of course. This is Barry Nutley saying hello and welcome to the action here. 2 days of fairly hectic activity across the San Marino countryside. We're about 30 kilometers west of Rimini. Town of San Marino, situated pretty well like a castle on top of a hill. The two key men, of course. Let's have a look at some of the top men. Hedendal from Sweden.
My name is Joachim Hedendal and I'm 25 years old and I live in a small town in Sweden, Alingsås, and my profession is a welder. And I started to drive Enduro in 1986, 125, and for this year I drive for the Swedish importer KGK Suzuki in Sweden, and for this moment I am second in the World Championship, but why not? I win the World Championship.
Hello, my name is Kari Tianen. I come from Finland and my hometown is Riihimäki. I'm 24 years old and my profession is enduro driver. I start my career first in motocross, but after I changed enduro. Last year I get 250 class world champion. But this year I changed bike and now I drive Husqvarna, and the bike is really good. Team is also really good, and I hope I'm strong enough to win world champion again.
World champion there, Tianen. Well, Saturday morning and 3 men get off every minute. We've got 175 international world-class competitors plus the Italian nationals who swell the entry to something like 300 competitors in total. 6 classes of machinery, 80, 125, 250, 350, 500cc and the big thumping 4-strokes, but it's the little 80s that get off first. Leaving the circuit will get off once the riders are away to the first cross-country test. 125's now beginning to fire up and get away. Most of the riders were saying on inspection of the course that it looks fairly easy, not the sort of tough going they're accustomed to in World Enduro. In fact, some grumbles already before they get into the thick of the action. Enduro, of course, will take them something like 150 miles during each of the 2 days. This round 6, legs 11 and 12. 11 on the Saturday, 12 on the Sunday, and the first day's cross-country test. Screaming single-cylinder water-cooled 2-strokes, the 80 Brigade, thundering away number 7. Franco Maraglia, he's already leading the World Championship class in the 80s. Giovincelli, fellow countryman, hard in behind him, hard and dusty here, 35 degrees the temperature. The gas rider, Ferraros, winner of the Spanish round. Ralph Solis getting a lot of hooting and encouragement from the German fans. Cabas 25 Cabas from Italy, a local man. And now, reigning 125cc champion, the man leading the 125cc championship, again heading for a double. From Cannock in Staffordshire, Paul Edmondson. Another Italian man, Rossi, the Italian stallion, as he's known. Still with the 125s now. Jeff Nilsson fell very heavily at the end of this test. Actually sitting in 4th place at the end of the motocross test, Nilsson. Trussardi was another one who fell victim to the stones, the dust, and the very fast going. That is one advantage, of course. When it's not so rough, they certainly get a speed on across this sort of terrain. Henk Neumann. Good 125 man. Very, very tough competitor, Neumann. Anders Eriksson. The Swedish, of course, very strong, and now they've got a bike of their own. The Husqvarna, having said that, owned by Cagiva, built in Italy. So, still now out of the motocross test, into the open countryside. The German's favourite, Matthias Ebert, number 47, sliding the back end out speedway style. The regulations, of course, now in Enduro mean that the riders have to use a low-profile tyre. That means that they need to run the tyres exceptionally hard to prevent large rocks causing punctures and bashing the tyre against the rim. Okay when it's like this, but if the rain comes down, it's going to be very tricky indeed. There's a bit of water about, as you can see, at the stream crossing as Jaume Colom, another of the Spanish competitors, thunders through the water, flicks it left and right. Juha-Pekka Lieno soaking the spectators, the Finn. He's supposed to be the man to beat Edmondson. He's the factory KTM man, the Finn. Kateri. And Mataska. "35 degrees, as I say, the temperature, so what better place to watch the World Enduro than by the side of a brook with your favourite pet?" Tienen again through the water. Hedendal is a really strong competitor today. He's been thundering on. Now he's up among the rocks. Giulio Pellegrinelli. Now, as the rest of the field coming through, we should find Weber, the World Trophy champion, is down among this pack somewhere. Weber, of course. There we are, world champion. 1987 Weber, 104 on the bike. The Paris-Dakar man, of course, Gilles Lalaye, Frenchman. Now the Austrian, Pichel. Another of the small English contingents. In fact, Millward had a particularly good first day, finishing in 22nd place, Russell Millward. Peter Appelquist, come on, get out of the way, he said. I want to get through there. You're parked up on the corner, you've no business being there. Well, I'm not going to begin to pronounce that name. That was over in a flash. Rinaldi, the strong 350 Italian competitor, the man who's sitting on top of the 350cc title. This man, unbeaten. 11 wins from 12 rides, Kent Carlson. So the 350cc class is pretty well the most closely disputed class, I think. The smaller of the four strokes, you can tell the different sound in the engine tone. The single cylinder, 350cc, Huskies, Husaberg. A few Hondas in there as well. Now the full-blown 500 men. Dick Wixell, great times. But the KTM actually expired before the end of the first day for Dick Wixell. So that was a major problem for him. Oddball 184. It's getting better this second half of the season. Today he finishes 5th actually in the 500s. Bodmol. So This man, Anderson, absolutely incredible. Farioli has got to be one of the forces to be reckoned with, I think, in that class. Then, of course, Katranek. Bert von Zinsowitz, 221, runner-up last year, lying second in the chase at the moment. That's the finish of the cross-country test as Peter Lundfeldt goes across the line. Plenty of spares available if you happen to be driving a Fiat 600 through San Marino. Of course, taking the competitors across the country through the farmyards and then on to the special test near the finish, and the clouds are now coming over here at San Marino. End of the first day for the special stage. Clouds gathering ominously as Trolley sets off on the 500cc trail. Again, the competitors said this isn't really what they would call an aggressive cross-country test course. You can see for yourselves, relatively smooth, no big bumps. There is a tabletop jump and there are one or two downhill leaps. But for a man of Sven-Erik Jonsson's capability, an absolute doddle. But having said that, the rain is now falling and conditions are becoming very, very tricky indeed. So late in the summer, the ground here has become just about rock hard from the extensive amount of sunlight. And as a result, there's not too much give. The problem will be, of course, if it continues to rain heavily, then it's going to become impassable. The riders won't be able to stand on it, much less ride a motorbike. Chalk is the nature of the going here, and chalk is very, very slippery indeed if it gets wet. Farioli then. Looking to be fairly well in control of things. Farioli over the top of the table nicely. Slight nosedive, but he's well in control of that. And the Czech Katranek on the Husaberg, the all-yellow rig of the Husaberg, and you can see now it is beginning to get just a little bit too slippery. Katranek, though, holding it nicely, the left leg out, lots of power. The advantage of a four-stroke is that it can be fed in nicely. It's not like an on-off switch. It doesn't suddenly snap and set the bike up. The power comes in smoothly, beautifully torquey delivery, and Katranek making full advantage of that, but it really is raining now. I'll resist the temptation to use the phrase cats and dogs, but my goodness, it's coming down. Zinsowitz. More like a one-day trials rider than an enduro rider, endeavouring to stay on two wheels, I think, is the secret of success on this special test at the end of the first day. Zinsowitz, the old master, though, can't resist the temptation. Take some airtime there. Now, as I was saying earlier, the problem with these low-profile tyres that the regulations make the riders use is that they cannot reduce the tyre pressure, which they would normally do on a normal motocross stroke enduro tyre, would lower the tyre pressure to give them grip in these conditions. No point doing that with a low-profile tyre because that means the rim is almost sitting on the track anyway. There's not enough cushion in the sidewall of the tyre to allow too much deflation. Almost sacrilege to see riders of this caliber reduced to looking almost like novices on a relatively straightforward motocross course simply because of the nature of the terrain. I say it's the chalk really, rain on chalk, it's hard underneath, there is no depth for any grip, and it's simply a skating rink. Well, due to the large number of protests by the riders over the conditions, the organisers have in fact agreed that the special stage, the one you're looking at now, will be null and void in terms of points, but they are insisting that the riders complete the course to such an extent that they say if anyone leaves the course through the ropes or goes off home and takes an early bath, they will be disqualified from the event. Now, to my mind, that's a ridiculous stance to take. If the scores are not to count for this event, then the whole point of getting the riders to finish it is meaningless. It's not as if there are any spectators around to watch the action. Just let the pictures tell the story. You can see for yourselves, not an ounce of glitch. And it's still raining, but down here at the finish we're waiting really for the riders to come in after what can only be described as a fiasco to wrap up day one. But we do have some scores. Maraglia has done it again, the tiny Kawasaki pilot out there on top of the 80s. Edmondson, a flawless performance despite those atrocious conditions, sitting now on top of the 125 world again. Sala, the local man, took a standing ovation from the crowd, thrilled to pieces of leading the 250s. Kent Carlson, well, what more can I say, a master on the 350s. Trolley again, another local victory for the Italian over Sven-Erik Jonsson on the Husqvarna, and the big four-stroke thumpers, Farioli. So an Italian 1-2-3 at the end of day one, World Enduro from San Marino. This is Barry. Welcome back to San Marino. Special test. You wouldn't think it was the same circuit, would you? 35 degrees again, the temperature. Crystal clear blue sky, and it's very, very hot. There is even some dust. Maraglia then getting underway. Best time put up by Maraglia on the 80cc class. And during the run, if you just take a look at him and watch the pictures, you can see how spectacular his style is and what a pretty circuit this is, but it's not very demanding. No bumps to speak of. Nothing to really stretch the suspension on those motocross bikes at all. Second best time for Paul Edmondson. Jeff Nilsson, in fact, was very, very quick round here, but Nilsson has a major problem. We'll see if we can show you that problem of Nilsson. Meanwhile, Edmondson's still thundering round. We're with Nilsson now. Started in actual fact the same time as Edmondson. They went off together. But if I tell you, at the end of his run, Nilsson had a minor catastrophe. He actually cut the course. He'd changed bikes as well, which is contrary to the regulations, and in his frustration knocked over the timing beam and was subsequently disqualified. So Nilsson totally out of the second day's proceedings, despite the fact he had a fast time. Trussardi then, the Italian crowd absolutely rooting for Luca Trussardi. Kawasaki very strongly represented in the smaller classes. Maraglia, as I say, leading the 80cc on a Kawasaki. Trussardi, teammate for the Kawasaki importer here in Italy. Bit of an unhappy time for Bonovoy, the Czech there, and Lieno. Dust already rising, so you can see that the majority of the mud has been cleared from the circuit. Tiena, reigning 250cc world champion Kari Tienen, doesn't like it too hot. He's been quoted, in fact he's told us here on Screen Sport before that he doesn't like it when it's over 30 degrees. He likes, coming from Finland of course, they don't get those extremes of temperature, and he likes it a little bit cooler. Sponsor, 49 sponsor. Clicking it right. Now Tienen again. The sun beating down on him now, but it's driving well. A Husqvarna man, teammate of course to Edmondson. Edmondson drives the same make in the 125 class. Tienen on target for his second consecutive 250cc world win. Grasso now fully back after injury and actually finishes runner-up in the 250cc class. He's the Italian Eurostar. And he just doesn't get tired. He keeps on going and going and going. So Giorgio Grasso on the Kawasaki. Now Dirk von Zitzewitz, the younger brother of Bert, of course, the runner-up in the World Championship. He really is one of the major hopes out of Germany. And we all think really that he's got what it takes to be the world champion in years to come. So young Dirk, following very much in his brother's footsteps. Joachim Hedendahl, the man who sat up there on the table at the end of the first day so well and actually finishes in front of Kari Tiainen in this second test on the second day. Bente Esa dropped all the way back and finished, in fact, in 10th place in the class. So, minor catastrophe as far as his championship concerned. Yimmink, like all Dutchmen, prefers the deep sand. Native Holland has a lot to offer, just as Belgium does in terms of deep sand. And Gerard Yimmink is struggling a bit, but finishes 5th. Conversely, Trolli is riding like a man possessed. David Trolli, the Italian, number 175, tops the 500cc table again for the second day running. And after last year's episode, this man rode in last year's World Championship and had 2 bikes stolen. So he's given up World Championship and just does the Italian rounds and nationals. World champion in the 500cc 4-stroke class, Kostraba. On the water-cooled single-cylinder thumper, the big husky. Pozledny, another Czech. He actually caught up very well and is in a position to shove Yimmink out of 3rd place in the championship. Finished runner-up in this special stage and 3rd in the 500. Sven-Erik Jonsson then, 182. He's only got to keep going like this, and there's not going to be anyone available to take the title away from him. Runner-up today then behind Trolli, Sven-Erik Jonsson, 182. Now, Sven-Erik Jonsson then just about completing the downhill drop. And as I said earlier, you wouldn't think it was the same piece of ground, would you? After the mud and chaos of yesterday. Everybody's favourite here in San Marino, Farioli. There's still a bit of hope for him in the large 4-stroke class. KTM team, who haven't had that much success in the big class, are hoping he can pull something off. But it will have to be over the prone body of this bloke Katranak, I suspect, because Katranak, like all Czechs, is immensely determined, very, very talented, and a very hard nut to crack. Well, that wraps up the special test.
Okay, this competition here in San Marino was going good for me. 2 days I make 1st and 2nd position, I think. So that's quite good. And also in the championship it's coming pretty close now between me and Nielsen. So hopefully this race was normally my bad race, but today I drive in good, and hopefully next 2 races it's better for me with them being in sand. So I'm looking forward to those now, and then maybe hopefully World Championship.
Yesterday it was a little problem for me because I crashed on the extra test and lost maybe 10 seconds. So I was leading before and I got 4th place. So it was not so, I was not so happy. But today I was winning and everything is okay.
Well, we have news for Nilsson. He might have thought he was winning, but the protest that went in afterwards meant that he was stripped of his second day's results. Edmondson topped the 125s, and if you look at the 250s, Nilsson ain't there at all. He simply wasn't in the running for cutting the course and changing his bike. Carlson again invincible in the 350cc 4-stroke class. Trolli, well, an Italian double. He should be doing the world rounds on a regular basis. What a start. Farioli, of course, over 500cc 4-strokes. That wraps up round 6 of the World Enduro from San Marino. From Screen Sport, join us again for round 7.